Okay, so I'm going to show you the backend. And in order to make it clear which one's the backend, which one's the front end, the front end is the one with the 3 files right now. Backend is the one with the more stuff in it. It's got a JS folder, node modules, all this node stuff that we don't have on the front end. But I can change the color of this. I just need to go to File, Preferences, Settings, go to Workspace. Let's change the color. Um, let's pick one of these. Can be dark. What's that? Oh, yeah, change the whole color. So in VS Code, if you ever want to change the color of your VS Code and not the color of the other windows, you go to File, Preferences, Settings, and then you gotta click, instead of User, click Workspace. If you click User and you change it, then all of them will change. Just choose Workspace, then just this project will change, and it will create a file for you called settings.json, which changes. You can see here workbench.color theme is kimby.dark or kimby dark. But I don't like this color, so let me change it. Wait, close that file. Preferences. I'm gonna switch back to, maybe we should just do light. Okay, how about that? We'll do the light color one is the back end. The black one is the front end. Just so it's clear what I'm working on. So on the back end, the important stuff that we need to know is I've created a folder called routes. Routes are just all the different endpoints that you can reach, right? Because the API that we're using is called books. Let me see, did I? Oh no, it got deleted from here. So the books backend, let me see if I have the URL for it here. Should be in app.js or environment. Not there. Okay, I had the link saved in my browser the other day, but I have to log back into Heroku to find it. Heroku is another web host type of thing, like Netlify. It's a little bit different. It has you can do backend stuff on there. That means you can install node modules. So the problem with static sites or static hosts like GitHub pages and Netlify, the problem with those is you cannot run commands that are required for some of these modules to work, right? Because when we run npm install, it downloads all these things here, and all of those things have to run, and they have to be installed, and there's commands to get them running, like here in the package JSON, you can see there's a start that does node app.js, which starts running this app. Okay, but on a static site, there is no console or no server that can run these files. Okay, so that's the problem. But Heroku does it for you. Heroku allows you to upload these things. So I use this site called Heroku, and oh, I'm already logged in. That's good. So here's what Heroku looks like. You can see here, it doesn't really show you much here, but there's this whole like command line interface that it has, and you actually have to use Git to add your files. So I actually used Git to upload all of this to Heroku. If I run, let me do Control C to get out of there. If I run git remote, we see right now the remote is Heroku. So if I do git push, I'm actually pushing to Heroku. So all of those files got pushed here. That's why I'm able to, that's why anyone from anywhere can reach this endpoint, which is, we'll find out right now when I click open app, lapcbooks.herokuapp.com. So if you go to that on your browser, you should see hi. And if you type /books, you'll see just this JSON data. It's just an array with some objects in there. Each object has author, published date, publisher, things like that. But the main page says hi. That's one of the routes. So if you just go to lapcbooks.com/nothing, you get hi. If you go to herokuapp.com/books, you get a list of books. If you go to herokuapp.com/books and then slash one of these IDs here, it should just give you that one book. Okay, so those are called routes. Okay, so one of them is just /, one of them is /books, the other one is /books / the ID of the book. So those are routes. I created those in a file called routes or books.js inside a routes folder. So these are my books routes, and you can see here the way they work. So it uses that Express to create the server, and then this router thing you get out of Express to do the routing. Now all of this is going to be super confusing, so don't worry about most of it. Just pay attention to starts from here in app.js. Actually, we say we have a books route, which is from the JavaScript folder routes/books. So all my books routes are coming from that books.js that I just showed you. And we're saying, where is it? We're saying app.use /books books route. So anytime you go to /books, it's going to start using the books route, which again, this I got from here, which I got from this require, which basically it imported the books route from this file. So this whole file gets imported. So anytime you go to /books, all these rules start applying, which one of them here you can see, well, ignore all this actually, because this is actually stuff I just added, which I'm not using yet. So this the whole storage, upload storage, ignore that stuff. Here's where it starts. So if you go to router .get /, that's going to be basically going to books, just lapcbooks.com /, books. So this is happening because here I'm saying if I go to books, and it's kind of confusing because you're just seeing a forward slash here, but I'm actually inside the books.js. So it's actually right now this is for books forward slash, not just forward slash, because we're using the books route. In app.js, the source file, if you just go to forward slash, you get hi. But if you go to forward slash books, you start using these. So this is actually forward slash books forward slash. Okay. So when you go to just the forward slash, I say await book.find and result.json books. So it's all this stuff await book.find. This is something that's specific to the Mongo database that I'm using. It's called MongoDB. It's this one here. Actually, I think I'm also logged in for that one. Let me see. Yep, here it is. So in MongoDB, this is where I store all the information. So whenever it says await book.find, it's looking for all my books inside that MongoDB database. Okay. And the way we get this book comes from here, const book equals require dot forward slash models forward slash book. So const mongoose equals require mongoose. Mongoose is another thing that I installed that helps you grab stuff from MongoDB. Where did it go? MongoDB, not that one. Did I close the MongoDB page? No, it's here. So this MongoDB, this is what the database actually looks like. If I go to browse collections, there we go. Okay, so you have projects in MongoDB. Inside a project, you have uh, you have what do you call it? Collections, and then inside collections, you have the actual database. So this database is called node test, but I should change it. And then actually this collection is called books. And this is where I store all of those book information. So there's the author, the title, publisher, publisher date. All that stuff is getting stored here. Okay. And this is called books. So back here, I said const mongoose equals require mongoose, which again lets me use something called mongoose.schema. And with mongoose.schema, you basically define what you want your books to look like in a JavaScript object. You want them to be an object that has a title property, author, publisher, and publish date. So you can see this format is the same format that it gets stored over here. Okay, it's actually an object with all these different properties. The ID property is automatically generated. I didn't include that one. Anytime you upload something here, it automatically has a unique ID, so you don't have to worry about that one. It adds it for you. But the rest of it, author, title, publisher, publish date, all that stuff got designed right here in this thing called the book schema. Okay. So Mongoose is just another thing that you use Node Package Manager to install. And what that gives you is this schema function. Schema lets you create this. And then when you export your book schema as a mongoose model, then it's kind of confusing. But again, I'm just trying to vaguely connect everything so you understand a little bit how this backend stuff is working. So then back here, when I say book.find, it knows that I'm talking about a mongoose schema here, because book is that model that I created. So that gets imported and it knows that this is a mongoose or MongoDB data. And I get to look for all the books with book.find. And if I just want to find one book, then I have to do book find by ID. And then request.params.bookid is actually an ID that you're supposed to get through a post request. So I've showed you get requests where you just do a with fetch you can send a request and get all of that data about the books, but you can also send a post request, and along with the post request you could send data like book IDs. And actually this is a get request, sorry. So since it's a get request, not a post, it's actually easier because all you have to do is type / and then the name of the book ID. Okay, so this colon book ID just means if you go to / this is gonna be the book ID that you get from here. So this is a book ID, this is a book ID. So if I go to / and then any of these on lapcbooks.com /books / the ID, it shows me that book. Okay, so that's coming from this little route right here. So if it says, if you go to books / a book ID, it's gonna look for that book ID. It's gonna say find by ID. So this await book.find by ID searches your MongoDB database. So it searches through here, it finds the book with that ID, and then it sends it back. So it says book equals await find by ID, finds that object, and then it sends it back to you as JSON. Okay. So since it's sending it back to us as JSON, whenever we read it, we have to also read it as JSON, but that's going to be on the front end. So this is all backend stuff. We're not going to build any of this ourselves. I'm just showing you just so it kind of makes sense why we're sending. What we're going to be doing next will make a little more sense, I think. So last class, I did show you how to get the books, and I showed you how I could use JavaScript to take the information that we retrieve with the fetch request and then post all of the that data on the page. We'll do that again, and then we'll see if we can add a book. Okay, now post requests are a little bit more complicated than get requests because you have to include something called headers, and you have to you have to include a post body that's going to include all of the books. But I don't know, I hope that kind of makes sense. So if I was going to try to describe this to someone who wants to use the API so they know how to use it, I would have to let them know, like, if you want to get all books, then go to / or yeah, books / nothing. Okay, so I might want to include all that documentation right here, where instead of like right now I'm saying if you just go to LAPC books what was it, /Heroku LAPC books herokuapp.com /books, or just / instead of saying hi, maybe I could have it give us some information on what to do with this. But here, let's see if we could change it right now real quick. So if I do make changes on this, like instead of saying hi, I want to say hello. I would have to push all of this back to Heroku to reflect the changes. So it's not gonna, obviously this is just on my computer right now, but I could push it to Heroku with git. Actually, let's see, if we do git push, I don't know if it's gonna push to Heroku right away. It might. It says, oh, sorry, I never did a commit, that's why. Everything is up to date because I haven't made a commit since I made these changes. But it was gonna go to, let's see, git remote get origin Heroku. Get URL, not get origin, get URL Heroku, and see if it shows. Yeah, it's actually connected to git.heroku.com/lapcbook. So it is gonna push there. So I could do the commit, git add all, and then git commit, so this gets saved, and then push it. But I also made some other changes earlier that I don't know if I should include. Like that's that change. But then I also added this here. These are nothing. This is just version updates. Also added something called Multer. What's this? Something got deleted. Oh. Okay, I think it's fine. None of these changes are gonna break anything, I don't think. So they're fine. We can commit them. I'll do git add all, git commit dash I'm gonna say test, or um, I'll just call it adding Multer, because that's another thing I did here. But let me just call it thing changed hi to hello, since that's what we're worried about. So git commit dash m changed hi to hello. Now I can do a git push, and it should update soon. Let me go real quick before it does update. Let's refresh this, or go to here. Still says hello, but it should update soon. It's not instant, but I think it'll happen pretty fast. Oh, it's still going. It hasn't finished yet. Okay, so it says done launching, verifying deploy. Okay, so if all that is done, now it says hello. Okay, so you can see I update my Heroku by pushing to it. Okay, so it's kind of confusing to understand, but it does tell you how to deploy. Like when you create your Heroku account and create an app, and this is free by the way, but I think it does start charging you if you go over a certain limit or something. I forgot how it works exactly, but with just small test projects, you shouldn't have any problem. It should stay free. But anyways, under deploy, it tells you how to install. It says install Heroku CLI. Tells you how to log in. Tells you need to git clone if you wanna. Actually, git clone is if you wanted to clone this repository, which will give you basically everything that I have here. Okay, it'll clone this project. But if you want to deploy your changes, you push to Heroku master, which I already did, so I didn't need to set the upstream again. That's why I just did a git push. When I pushed it, I said git push, but the first time you do it, you might have to say -u Heroku master, because you're pushing it to the master branch on the Heroku repository. Once you log into Heroku and all that, I think it automatically creates a Heroku origin for you. I mean a Heroku repo. It names it Heroku for you. I don't think I named it Heroku myself. Where did it go? Got so many stuff open. You can also connect to GitHub actually. Probably would be easier if you did that actually. So if you pushed all those stuff that I showed you, like I could upload my this whole project here with the backend stuff. I think I could upload it to GitHub, and then Heroku will just take that and make it work. So that might be easier than pushing it to Heroku with the Heroku CLI. But that's another option. So there's two ways to deploy it. But again, it requires you're gonna use Git, so that's why it's good to learn Git. And when you click Open App, it just takes you to the home route. So it just takes you to the main app, which is takes you to the main route, which is just /nothing. That's why we see this message here, just /nothing gives you nothing or hello. So I'm just gonna change this hello to some useful things like where to go, where to send our routes to get certain information. Unfortunately, this is just, if I do result.send, that's just gonna send us plain text. So instead of result.send, I might wanna use a different method. Actually, can we include HTML in here? I'm not sure if I can. So I made a change, but I don't want to push this again to the repository to test it. So instead, I could test it on my local machine. This doesn't have to go up to Heroku right now to test it out. I could test it on a local host. Because here on the very bottom of app.js, this is where I'm listening for people visiting a certain port. That certain port, if this is running on Heroku, Heroku is going to decide what that is. But if we're here on my computer, it's going to use whatever I put in this .environment folder, which is 3000. Actually, to make this simpler, I could just say 3000. And then listening on port 3000. So if I make that change, small change I just made, so instead of process.environment.port, it's gonna say listen on 3000. Now if I run, if we go to the package.json, we can see the start function here is node app.js, or I could just run npm start and it'll run node app.js for me. npm start. It says listening on port 3000. That's the message that we get from right here. App.listen 3000. Console log listening on port 3000. That's why we're getting this message. So technically, if I go to, instead of lapcbooks.php, .heroku app.com. I could go to localhost 3000 and we get hello, but this time in bold because I put it in a H1 this time. So that's good. We're able to put HTML in here, which is nice. That's good because I wanna actually say here routes, and then after that maybe an unordered list here, and now we can't break this up onto separate lines. You see it doesn't let me there, so I'll just have to write it like this, which is going to be kind of annoying. Let me see if there's a better method. We could also maybe send an object. Yeah, so instead of sending H1 like HTML data in through there, I could also send JSON data. I could say result.json, and I can create an object here. And we could say routes, say get routes, which will be another object. Let's say just /. I'm trying to format this in a way that would make sense, but this is going to be even more confusing. I'm trying to send an object that describes what to do, but that's gonna... Let me see if I could even send an object. If I say result.json, this object with a property called routes, which is another object with post routes, or let's start with the get routes. So the get routes that we have currently are // books, and that should be an array. So we got // books and / books, and then / book ID, colon book ID. The colon should let you know that this is actually a book ID and not just / book ID, like literally typing in book ID. This is actually a variable representing something. Let me see if that'll actually send it. So let's go back and refresh. Let's close this. This one, that's fine. Okay, here's the local host. I think it crashed though. No? Oh, since I made a change to app.js, I actually have to disconnect the server and start it again. So npm start one more time and connect it to db, localhost 3000, refresh. Okay, so now we're getting this object. It says routes, get, and then it's just giving me the exact same thing I put in there. So that's not really formatted in a nicer way either. But I mean, I could format it but it would take too long, so I'm just gonna skip that. I'll just write the documentation in a markdown file and include it in a GitHub normally if I was gonna upload this, not actually send you to a route to see them. But anyway, you could make a route to anywhere, and you could send back JSON data, or you could just do result.send and send back plain text data like it was before. I'm just gonna undo all my changes until I don't have any more like commits to make. Let me see. Let's just undo that. Discard. Okay. What did I change? Yeah, don't save. Or save. Or don't save. I don't know. Don't save. Don't save that one either. So the important thing from this is we need to know how to send data, what type of data we're going to expect, and what routes to send them to. So if we are going to add a new book, then this is the format for it. It needs a title, which is a string, which means just plain text. Author, which is an array, but I made it so we comma separate the authors, I think, last time. I mean, we could do it that way. But I remember I did have the front end set up before, but it got deleted. But I was sending a array through the form when I would type in author names. If I put commas, it would just take the commas, and I used JavaScript to separate it into an array just by doing this. Watch. Let's say you have let authors string equal. Let's say this is in a form you typed in like Bob, Mary, and Joe. Like those are the authors, right? That's not an array, right? If I type author string, it's just a string. Okay. Arrays are stuff in square brackets. So if it was Bob, Mary, and Joe, that would be an array. Okay. But if you're typing, there's a HTML form and I'm making you type in something like let's say at the very top of this outside of stories container under story nav, let's say I add a form. So we're gonna need a form if we want to submit our own stories. We want to send a post request to this app that I have hosted on Heroku. So we want to send it to the backend, to the books route. Want to send a post request. If we send a post request, we're gonna send this body along with it, which is gonna have the request body title, request body author, request body publisher, request body publish date. Okay. So this request body, that's gonna be sent from here, like through some JavaScript. We're gonna submit this form. when the form is submitted, it's going to run a JavaScript function that's going to let's go all the way down. Let's actually I'll add it in a separate script maybe. I mean, there's no point. I'm just separating it from the other stuff, but just so it's clear that this is all API related stuff. Actually, that's not how we comment. That's how we comment. API stuff. Fetch API stuff. Okay, so normally when we do fetch, we just say fetch, and then we go to the URL. Like I always forget the URL. LAPC books .herokuapp.com, right? lapcbooks.herokuapp.com. Just copy paste it just in case. So if we're fetching from there, and we need the HTTPS, of course. So if we fetch from there, we get that data, then that gives us some data. We select a result, take that result or response, and we say response or let data equal response.json, because it needs to interpret that into JSON data. Then console.log, or then console.log data. Return that data, then console log the data. I think that'll work, right? Let me see if this works. Open, inspect, console, unexpected token in JSON. Why is it saying that? I think we need to go to books. Oops, that's why. We're going to the home page. There is no JSON data on the home page. There we go. Alright, so here's the list of authors. We got it back. Jack and the Beanstalk, Harry Potter, blah blah blah. So I just did a get fetch that I showed you previously. The get fetch is sort of easy because we don't have to include some of the extra data that we're gonna have to include with the post request. The fetch, remember, just grabs the data and just you could show it to your front end. But if we want to actually add more books to the back end, then we have to do a different fetch request. So that's the one that we're gonna listen to for whenever the post is submitted. Okay. So all the way back here. That's why I'm creating this form. Okay. I'm gonna say form ID equals new books form, and real quick before I continue, let me see if I did save it because I don't want to do all this again. I already did this and had it here last time. Oh no, I don't know. I can't find it, but I think it was the same Git project and we overwrote it. I forgot completely that I had added all that. I just wrote over it. But I did check my Git log, and I don't think there was any commits that so added placeholder stories, that's old, deleted paragraph, change this paragraph. I don't think any of those commits are gonna have what I need. But here, let me try checking out one of these real quick. Let's go back to um this one. Control C. So if I want to go back to one of these points in history, I could do git checkout and then paste that ID in there. Oh, it's because I made some changes I need to commit. What change did I make? Oh, it's just the styles thing? I thought I already committed this. Hold up. Git pull. Already up to date. Then let's just cancel. What is this? Actually. Oh, no, we never committed this. This is that one thing that you did. Forget, Gale. This is when you had named it my styles instead of styles, so that's why it wasn't working. That's why I have that one little commit there. It's okay, let me just commit that. Git add all. Um, how come this isn't showing up though? Oh, maybe because I didn't hit save, that's why. Let me let's just do git add all, git commit dash m changed my styles to styles and git push. Okay, so now that we have no uncommitted changes, I'm just gonna discard all those changes I just added right now, so it doesn't bother me right now. So now I can do a git checkout, paste in that name from earlier. Okay, let's see what changes we have here. Nope, no JavaScript. This is just back to this state. Um, that didn't help us. Let's try git log and go back maybe further. Anyways, maybe I never committed those changes, so it's not gonna, we're not gonna find it. So I'm just gonna switch back to master. Git checkout master. Back to here. So um, we're looking at this again. So right here, maybe under the story 1, story 2, story 3, or actually above it, I'll add a form. It's not gonna be styled nice because I'm gonna do this, try to do it quick. Add a form. It's gonna have some inputs in it. Input type equals text. Placeholder equals let's put title first, of course. Title. So here's where you're gonna create a form. If you want to send a post request to work with this certain API, you can see here that if we're gonna try to create a new book, we're gonna need to provide title, author, publisher, publish date. So in this input is where we'll provide all of that. Give each one an ID as well. Copy paste this a few times. So we need author, publisher, and publish date. Okay, so that's gonna take in the information. One more input type submit, just to submit the form, and give the form an ID, new book. Okay, so there's that form. There's what it looks like right now with no styling. It's gonna take in title, author, publisher, publish date, and when you click submit, nothing happens. It just refreshes the page. Okay, but we're gonna use JavaScript to construct an object that's gonna take all this information, put it in a JavaScript object, and it's gonna send it along with the post fetch request body. Okay, and when it sends it with that post fetch request body, the backend receives it because it comes in. Someone went to books / and then they sent a post request. Along with that post request, they included a post body that has a title, author, publisher, publish date. Then it's going to try to save that book, or basically add it to my MongoDB database. So that's how it's all going to work. But if you don't fully understand it, it's okay. Just the part that you need to really get the hang of is just the front end stuff. How to create the form for the submission, all the information that you're going to need to enter, and then sending the fetch request. So we're going to fetch, well, this is the, sorry, that's, I'll put a comment here. This is get request. But after that, we're going to do post request. So post request is also going to be fetch, but it's going to look different, and we're not going to trigger it. This one triggers as soon as you load the page. It's going to look for that, and then it's going to show you it. So if I inspect, go to console, we already see it's there. So as soon as you refresh the page, it does the fetch and it grabs all that stuff. But for uploading stuff, we don't obviously want to do it until we typed into the form and we clicked on submit. That's when we want to do the fetch. So we need to listen to a submit event. So we have to say add new book form equal document dot get element by ID, get element by ID, new book. That's what I called it. Right? Yeah, ID is new book. And then the other IDs are title, author, publisher, publish date. So we're going to need all those as well, and we're going to create an object out of them. Okay, so if we got the new book form. Now we're going to need to listen to an event on that. So new book form dot add event listener. We're going to listen for submit. So once that form is submitted, then we're going to do everything we need to do. That's when we'll do the fetch request. So someone clicks submit, that's when we need to do fetch. So the way you use add event listener is you listen for what event, you type in what event you want. So it's a function, so it goes into parentheses. The first argument is what the event is. So if it's a click, you'll write click. We could technically put the event listener on the submit button, but instead I'm putting it on the form. So I'm just going to listen to a form submission. So that's the first argument. The second thing is what do you want to happen? The actual function that you want to run. So in this case, I'll put an arrow function. So when we submit it, then this is going to take an event parameter. This is just something, all events, when you use event listener, they always have this E that you can include. You don't have to, but I'm including it because I want to say e.prevent default. And I want to prevent the default behavior of submitting a form, which is refreshing the page. I don't want the page to get refreshed. Then again, maybe I do, so we could leave it out. I'll leave it out for now. Maybe it's not a bad thing for the page to refresh. So once that happens, that's when we start looking for the pieces inside the form, all the data that we have in there. So we say let title equal document dot get element by ID, title, and we'll copy paste this. We'll say Control D, author, Control D, publisher, Control D, publish date. Alright, so now I've got all the actual the things inside the form, so the inputs. That's why I gave them these IDs: title, author, publisher date, publisher date. But I don't want to actually get the element itself. I want to get what's inside when someone types into it. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just getting the actual element, but I want to get the actual title that someone types inside. So I need to add one little thing at the end of all of these. Dot value. Dot value. Actually, you could just hold Alt and then you could type on 2 lines at the same time. Okay, so I want to get the value of each of those elements. Okay. Then what I want to do with those is I'm going to create another element. I'm going to say let request body equal make it equal this object, which is going to have a title, which is going to be equal to title. It's going to have an author, which is going to be equal to author. It's going to have a publisher, which will equal publisher. And it's going to have a publish date, which will equal publish date. So the first part of this, the title, author, publisher, publish date, that should match what I put in here. Title, author, oh, it's authors, so that wouldn't have worked because you have to make sure it's the same. So authors, not author. So make sure that's authors. So this is what we're gonna send with the post request. Now we haven't done any of the post stuff. So far I'm just gathering information, and this request body is gonna include all of this information. So I think now we can do the post fetch. All right, so with post request, this is how you do it. So this is, we still need to be inside this new book form dot add event listener submit. So this is still all happening when we submit. So we're still inside this function. Okay. So we're gonna fetch. This here again. Okay. Except this time we have to include some extra information. Let me close some of these tabs. Got too many things open. Close that one. Don't need that one. This one, just group that with some of the other ones. What else we have? Heroku, we'll put this away. Put this away. Anything else? Okay, anyway, so all right, so for the fetch request, we include this again, but here's where it gets a little more complicated. You have to include some stuff. So after the URL, you put a comma, and you have to include this object, which is gonna have a method property. Is normally it's get, and you don't have to include this, but if you are gonna change it from get to post, then you have to include this and say post instead. Okay. So the method is going to be post this time, not get. Might have to include some other stuff, but I think I'll stick with the post right now. I might have to include the content type actually. I think we should need to include that. So method is post content type. Actually no, that's not going to be there. Always forget. So we need to include something called the headers, and here we can have content type, application slash JSON because it's gonna be JSON data. I think that's how we do it. I don't know. If it doesn't work, we'll know we did it wrong. But we need the method which is post, not get. I mean, if it was delete, we could also say delete. There's also put and patch. But you could pretty much use them for whatever you want. Even though it's a post request, I could also delete stuff with a post request if my backend, because this is where what happens basically. We say if you see a post request to this route, then do all this stuff. So I could easily do a post request and then delete stuff. But here I'm creating a new book. If I want to delete them, I would go to I would have to send a delete request and then a book ID, and then it would delete it. But we're going to try to create a new book, so we're going to listen for a post request. It's going to come in, it's going to have to include all this information. When it does, we'll try to save that. Okay, let's go here. We're going to fetch slash books, method post, headers. And then we have to include the body. So after headers, say body. And the body will be this thing that we created here. We called it the request body, so that's all we have to do. So we're going to do a fetch request. We don't have to really do anything else, I guess. If that's working correctly, then it should try to update our database. So we'll find out in a second. Running out of time anyway, but send a fetch request, method post. We need the headers, which has to include the content type, has to include what kind of content we're sending. And the request body with the information that we need to include. And this should work no matter if I'm running it from here or from Heroku. I mean, sorry, we're on the front end. Totally confused. Okay. Let's open this and let's try it out. Let's see what happens. Title. Let's put A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Author. George Washington. Publisher. LAPC. Publishing. Publish date. Let's put today's date. 7/19/2021. And what happens if I click? Okay, so I don't expect anything here to happen. The real place where we expect it to happen is if we go again to lapcbooks.herokuapp.com/books. Is there one new one here with George Washington? No. I don't think it does look longer, but it doesn't look like it got added. So something went wrong. Now we could find out what went wrong through Heroku, or if we had like continued with this fetch request. We could do like a then, like listen for something to come back. Actually, I could do it like this. Let me, George Washington. Let's do inspect. Let's see what we have. Oh, get element by ID is not a function. That's why it didn't work. Refresh. What did I misspell? I misspelled something. I knew it looked off. What's wrong with it? Get element. Did I spell it wrong? Get element by. Oh, nah. The second that D is supposed to be lowercase. That's all it was. Hopefully it works this time. I think I did the same for the others. I put a capital D instead of a lowercase d. Yep. Make that a small, 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 small. Any others? Okay. Should have checked for that error before doing the submit. Okay, so we submit. Can I read property value of null? Publish date. Okay, so it can't find the publish date for whatever reason. Did I spell it wrong? Publishdate. That's spelled correctly. Maybe at the top. Oh, I put publish date. Publish date. Okay, so just a bunch of typos causing problems. One more time. Clear that. Refresh. Submit. Alright, well, at least we didn't get a regular error, but we see a fetch failed. Okay. Now, why did it fail? Oh, I think I needed to include some other headers. Yeah, I didn't include another header. That's required, I think. I need to just reference another post request real quick so I could make sure I get all the required headers. So let's just type in fetch post. It'll take us to the official documentation here. It's a get request. Okay, here there's a lot of stuff that I'm not including. I was hoping to get away with not including it, but I guess I can't. So we have method. Oh, you know what? Headers should be included inside this box. I don't know why I put it outside. I think I did. Let's go down. When we're out of time already, dude. It's 9:50. Let me just change one thing real quick, see if it fixes it. Fetch headers body. Oh, I did it correctly, I think, but I didn't include like the mode and the credentials. Anyways, and I didn't, I forgot to JSON stringify the body. You gotta make sure you do that as well, else it's not gonna work. Stringify, and I keep misspelling things. Yeah, if this doesn't work, we'll just end it here, but we'll continue next class, I guess. But let me see if that solves it. I wasn't sending actual JSON data because I forgot to stringify. George Washington, LAPC Publishing today. Still failed, but we'll figure it out. Let me just give you the sign out code and